I want a head. This is your spooky look at the Figures toy company's Scooby-Doo, the Headless Horseman. Mystery Inc. has been invited to a Halloween party at Crane Manor with costumes, snacks, and games. All is well until Shaggy, Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Dum encounter a headless horseman outside the mansion. Beth, the great-great-granddaughter of Ichabod Crane, tells the kids of her family's lore. Cousin Elwood realizes that the ghost must be after Aunt Gertrude's necklace, and it's decided to take the diamonds to the bank for safekeeping. Unfortunately, not before Elwood loses his head. Well, before we go ahead and start losing any heads, I suppose the first thing we should probably do is figure out how tall the Headless Horseman stands. Technically, there is two ways to display the figure. I'm opting right now to display it with the jack-o'-lantern head, but there is an alternate head sculpt as well. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we do that, though, according to my trusty tape measure, you're looking at the Headless Horseman standing almost 8 inches, 7.9, but I guess we could probably round that up to 8 inches in height. And switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the figure standing 20.1 centimeters tall. Suppose I made that probably a little scarier than it needed to be. Needless to say, let's have a look at the accessories that come included with the figure. And the only other thing it comes included with is an alternate head sculpt. And it's not even technically a head sculpt necessarily, because this is the head right here that comes defaulted out of the packaging. The jack-o'-lantern head that, of course, I've got it resting on the shoulders right now, is technically the accessory. We'll talk a little bit about that more so in a second. The head sculpt that is defaulted to the figure is one of the ghosts of Elwood Crane, which if you are a regular of watching Scooby-Doo, you probably already know who's underneath all of this. I'll give you a clue. Anyways, looking at the head sculpt, though, it's decent, and it captures what I would imagine the cartoon version of Elwood Crane would resemble. A little not as mad necessarily, not laughing necessarily, but still a decent looking head sculpt. This is the one that comes with the figure when you get out of the packaging. I want to comment a little bit about that right now. If I take the alternate head sculpt off, try my best not to knock the figure over. There's a lot going wrong with this figure. This is the alternate accessory, and technically the alternate head sculpt that it comes included with. But if you look at the underside of it, there's absolutely no means whatsoever to have this attached to the shoulders of the figure. Instead, it kind of looks like somebody's partially carved it out. I mean, if you look at it, it actually looks like it's supposed to fit on the hair. If I push this down, it doesn't go completely over top of the head. I try my best to push this down. And I can only gather that this part of the hair mirrors the sculpt that's inside. But I just don't get it, because the head sculpt, it literally looks like he's wearing a pumpkin hat. I mean, no, really, truthfully, the way to display the figure is with this peg rooted into the whole socket of the shoulder. But again, I don't understand then what this is for. If this is something that was just going to be displayed in his hand, well, it doesn't help much to not have the peg on the underside like this one does, because then you could attach it to the shoulders. Anyways, if you want to default it to the way it was in the packaging, all you really have to do is just take this peg, move the cape out of the way, find the peg hole, there we go, the neck, and just firmly root the head into place, just like that. And that's what it's supposed to look like. But again, I don't understand what's going on here. Why they didn't just do the exact same operation with this one? Unless the intended plan is to have it as a separate piece. I mean, it does have some rubbery give to it, but you literally can't fit it over top of his head. It only sits on top of his head, and that looks absolutely ridiculous. I mean, personally speaking, I would much rather display the figure with the jack-o'-lantern, but I just can't do that. I mean, as good and fine as the ghost of Elwood Crane looks, You got to admit, I mean, the pumpkin looks a lot cooler. Why they wouldn't have done it? Anyways, I mean, you could rest it technically on his shoulders and just hope that the figure isn't going to fall over. Just between you and me, the figure falls over a lot. The figure, unfortunately, does have some real bad construction to it. Figures Toy Company has been producing figures for a long time of various different franchises. Scooby-Doo piqued my curiosity the most because I really liked the idea of getting all of these characters that were the ghosts in the show. But unfortunately, there's a lot of loose problems going on with this figure. Primarily, when I did get out of the packaging, his arm is just a floppy mess. It's this dinner bell happening. And I've got the exact same problem on the leg as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and, against my better judgment, I'm going to dismantle the figure. I want to sort of show you what's happening here. I'm going to take the cape and I'm going to remove the clasp from the loop, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and un-velcro the cape. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to go ahead and take the belt off as well. Where is he going with this? Well, bear with me. I'm going to remove the Velcro as well because I want to show you how these things are built. And I don't know, I would assume that they're all built the exact same way. Let's go ahead and remove the trousers as well. Oh, it's turning into one of those reviews. Let's remove the trousers, just like so. Just enough that I can kind of get in there so I can show you what's going on. Okay, so while the head attaches via peg, you could go right there, the arms and the legs don't even do that. What they actually do, if I can tilt in there so you guys can see, it all works on hooks and elasticized straps, like elastic bands. The idea is, on one side, you've got the leg, and the leg is supposed to hoop onto this little loop that's right here. And then that pulls this elastic band that then crosses up and is supposed to attach to the top, where, oh yes, you can guess it. We're going to take the hand, the arm that was already loose on the figure. Let me just get it from the sleeve here. There we go. And the idea is you get these little ringlets. And I guess the idea that this is supposed to loop on to this little peg right here, like that. And then this hook part is supposed to loop into the inside there, on right there. You see that black band inside? So basically it works as a pulley system, or it works that the arms are pulling against the legs and it keeps both things tight. The problem is when one of these things malfunctions, you basically cause the entire figure to literally just fall apart. I mean, yes, I could get somewhat the loop at the top here, but the leg is about the only thing I could probably salvage. Everything else, I'm just resorting to these loose arms. I mean, this one arm right here is just ultimately going to be sitting in the sleeve of his jacket, sort of keep it from falling off in the first place. I don't even understand why. This might have been just the way that they've constructed the figures from day one, and this is sort of like Mego. This is the way they've designed the figure, and they want to just stick to that. But man, it's an awful shame because, like I said, if anything goes wrong with the figure, I mean, on one side, you can sort of see how it's attached. See right there, it's attached to that elastic band. It sort of works again like a pulley system. But to have that go wrong, there's absolutely no way to get in there. You're going to have to take like very small tweezers, a very small screwdriver, and do your best to kind of fish that back out. You can actually go in there and attach the arm. God forbid, if that elastic breaks on the inside, then you basically got an entire figure that has the dinner bell problem. Loose arms and loose legs. I mean, the one thing that really disappoints me the most about this figure was I literally just took this out of the packaging. Took it out, realized quickly that the arm was loose, and figured it probably just wasn't attached to anything, and tried my best to attach and line up what I thought would be a peg right here. Realized there was no peg, and then had to do a little bit of dismantling to come to the awful truth. The way these figures are constructed would really prevent me from wanting to get on board any more of these, for the risk that I could get more figures that had loose, separated joints, and next to impossible to be able to go in there and fix. So despite its construction, let's try our best to focus perhaps on the positives. It would be a very small list, I suppose, to find the positives on figures like this. But, I mean, one good thing is that they do have real fabric clothing. As you can see, this one does have the cape and cloak. It has a nice long tailored cape. Has some wrinkles. Yes, I probably could go in there and just kind of clean up the wrinkles and iron this out. I don't know if I really want to commit to this much more now. I do like the fact it does have the little collar that drapes off in it. Of course, a nice drooping collar. The costumes are pretty accurate to the way it looks in the cartoon. Just, again, it's a little disappointing the way everything sort of, comes together. Now, in the cartoon, I don't recall him actually having a belt. He does have a belt, but it kind of looks more like a smooth belt. I get that they probably put these little notch lines in here, simply just the way that you do up the belts. I mean, you have one of these old, like the old G.I. Joes, for example, had these little belts where you ran it across and it caught on to one of these little ledged points. And I can gather why they've done it the way that they've done. And actually, I think if I spin this around, let me just rotate it. Yeah, that's a little bit closer to the way it looks in the cartoon. It's just literally like a buckle in the front. And then the rest is just a smooth, you want to keep it then to the back. I mean, the material that they used is generally okay. There's some seam lines here that are a little on the sloppy side. But I guess overall, all things considered, it's not bad material. And just like I said, it's on a figure that just doesn't hold up very well at all. They have given him plastic boots, which I guess would be the better way to go instead of using fabric boots. It's flat enough at least that you will have to do a little bit of balancing on this particular figure to get him to stand, but at least the seam here isn't too intrusive to the point where it causes the figure to tip over. And of course, it does eliminate some articulation on the figure, which unfortunately in this case, again, would be probably nil. He does have gloved hands, as you can see. Again, my biggest real disappointment, well, the starting point, then kind of unraveled from there, was again like the fact I couldn't even display it with the jack-o'-lantern head, short of again like just popping. Well, you know what, we'll talk about the articulation on this guy first, and then we'll go ahead and balance the pumpkin on top of his shoulders and just pray that he doesn't fall over. Okay, so let's have a closer look at the articulation on the ghost of Elwood Crane. His head, as it's being just a basic ball joint, allows the head to rotate all the way around. Sometimes when you are rotating it, I've noticed that the head seems prone to popping off. Again, probably the best thing about the figure is the head sculpt, both cases, the jack-o'-lantern and the Elwood head. When it comes to the arms, okay, so we're going to probably just dismiss this side, but his arm normally would be able to hinge out. And on the side that actually does work, it does do that. Fine and good. It does move forward, and it holds that. It does do the exact same thing on the back side, too. He has a single hinge on the elbow, a bend or hinge joint on the arm and the hand does also rotate as well. He has no waist articulation, just basically because this is just a Mr. Potato Head body, essentially, and then all the limbs are attached to that. On the working leg, the one that isn't the dinner bell, the leg goes forward, it goes back, it goes out. It has a single bend at the knee, and it does have technically, well, not really technically, it has some articulation in the boot, but it's only more so the way that the figure is assembled. Again, the hardest part on this guy is just trying to get him to stand, and I guess for final looks, maybe we'll just, I don't know, we'll try our best to get him to balance. What a teetering, tottering mess this guy is. I mean, I would be so on board the idea of picking up more of these. Initially, I picked this one up last year with the intended plan of reviewing him. And it's only this year that I've got around to actually opening him up to discover what a messy mess this guy actually is. Is he even going to stand? I don't think he's going to stand. He's totally standing. Nobody breathe. The figure looks okay if you're into the retro-designed Migos style. I do give them credit for the fact that they gave us Scooby-Doo villains, which was a nice touch. But based on the poor constructed way that this guy is assembled, and for the fact that just on a dime, limbs could fall apart on him and would be almost impossible to reattach, makes me really sort of iffy and uncertain if I want to jump on board picking up any more of these for the disastrous mess that the Headless Horseman actually was. Boy, that totally did not go the way I had hoped. I would have hoped I could have opened up the packaging, which I might also add. The packaging is designed in such a way that you can take the figure out and then put it back in. I'm probably just going to find myself putting the Headless Horseman back in his plastic prison, because not being able to stand him sort of does put a bit of a damper on wanting to not only have him out on display for every Halloween, but possibly also picking up any more of these either. There's a lot of things going wrong with this figure. I mean, we could talk about the positives. He's got real fabric costume. That's always a good thing. He did come with what I thought was going to be 2 alternate swappable heads, and that really wasn't the case. And I really wasn't expecting him to be assembled the way that he was. I just assumed, if anything, like a Mego. Well, Megos are kind of like that as well. I would have hoped, if anything, this figure line would have had just pegged-in arms. Even if it limited what you could do when it came to the posability, I would rather just be able to swivel the arms back and forth than to have to perform surgery on this guy and take off his clothing. Boy, I really wasn't expecting on doing that. There's a lot of things wrong with this particular figure. And you can imagine my disappointment, because I was really opening this guy up with the plan of really praising the fact that a toy line company was doing classic Scooby-Doo villains. The end result was we get a Headless Horseman not only that's looking for a head, but he's looking for limbs because his limbs are falling apart on him. Oh, so disappointing. Unfortunately, it does cast a rather dark cloud over even the idea of picking up more of these, because I was on board the idea of picking up more Scooby-Doo villains. Getting the ghosts all on display sounded like a great idea. Figures Toy Company have done a wide range of different properties. I think also Challenge of the Super Friends was also one of them. The idea of picking up Challenge of the Super Friend figures sounded fantastic. And now, sort of based on this, I'm apprehensive about the idea of even getting on board, getting any more of these. If you have been collecting the Figures Toy Company figures, let me know down below if you've had similar issues. Maybe I just lucked out and unfortunately got the wrong one. Anyways, what do you guys think down below? I mean, this would be definitely curious to see what you guys think of this figure. Let me know down below in the comments section. Perhaps this could compete with the Noseless Dracula. Yes, the popular Noseless Dracula of the Van Helsing line. That's probably one of the worst figures I've looked at when it comes to spooky-related videos. Nonetheless, if you are new to this channel, liking the content you're seeing, dug the idea, and had a fun time watching this video, and just see the angst that I had in my tone of voice as I was looking at this figure just falling apart in front of me, consider the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below and move on over to that dark, spooky castle and turn on that bell notification and just keep those ghoulish peepers peeled. This month of Spottober, as of course we have a look at spooky-related videos and regular videos all sprinkled in there. As an FYI, just a personal note I've made already, I'm surprised actually this figure is even standing right now. This would be a prime time for the figure just to keel right over and have his head roll off the table. What a great send-off that would be. It's not going to happen. It's not. I want it to happen, and this is the one time it's not going to happen. It was falling every other time. Anyways, guys, certainly stay tuned to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. New videos are coming your way. And as always, thanks for watching. Boy, this figure. Oh. As always, guys, thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time.